Dr. Joe here at Atlas Health, and today I wanted to cover a very important topic called oral tolerance, and I'm going to speak a few minutes about that. The reason this keeps coming up is this week, for some reason in particular, a bunch of people are like, wow, I've heard that doing autoimmune paleo diet actually isn't good for me long term, and does this have any merit, Dr. Joe? And so let me answer that question by proposing what's actually happening and why an autoimmune paleo diet might be beneficial. We all know that autoimmune paleo can be anti-inflammatory, but why is that? And why is, for example, things like gluten and dairy pro-inflammatory or grains pro-inflammatory? And the reason has to do with how the body breaks down protein. Certain proteins are more difficult to break down than other proteins. And so what can happen is a person will eat something, they may combine it poorly with too much liquid, or they may combine too many starches with protein, or maybe they have a lack of protein breakdown due to low stomach acid production, due to a thyroid issue, due to a concussion, due to an infection in their stomach, due to a poor development of the rest and relax system, due to chronic stress. The mechanisms for low stomach acid production are numerous. Okay? So essentially what happens is that low stomach acid doesn't allow the protein to break down from chunks of protein into individual bits of protein called amino acids. Okay? And the way the immune system works is once the food gets into the small intestine, there are cells that can reach through the intestinal lining and sample the food or the amino acids to say, yes, I like these, or no, I don't. And those are called dendritic cells. And this is the mechanism of oral tolerance. So if a dendritic cell reaches through and grabs a particle in the small intestine and it's an amino acid, it says, yeah, this is okay. If it reaches through and it grabs a chunk of protein that is not broken down all the way into amino acids because of low stomach acid production, they may go, no, I don't like this protein, or they may go, it's okay. If they say, no, I don't like this protein, then you lose tolerance to that protein and end up with inflammation, a systemic immune response to that, which is like fatigue, you can get mucus production, you can get bowel changes, etc. A person can have this despite not having leaky gut, which is a dendritic cell that's not very happy. Okay? So the moral of this story is that a person with poor digestion of protein, that is the first step in the production of a food sensitivity or the loss of oral tolerance. Okay? So some foods are particularly difficult to break down. For example, gluten is pretty hard to break down, especially when it's bound to things like glycophosphate, which the body can't recognize. And so those proteins tend to be a little more antigenic or pro-inflammatory. Where people start to get in trouble with dietary restriction is they will remove a particular food and they'll feel way better. They'll have this honeymoon phase where they feel way better. If the food is not the cause of the inflammatory response, meaning the body has other issues going on that are causing those dendritic cells to be very unhappy, for example, a SIBO overgrowth, which means a small intestine bacterial overgrowth, where a person has healthy bacteria overgrown in their small intestine, or they have a parasite in their bowel, or they have too much cortisol or stress hormone in their system, or they have a loss of vagal integrity from their brain due to a head trauma, due to an attachment disorder, due to poor development, due to another type of autoimmunity, for example, celiac disease, which is autoimmunity of the small intestine. There's a number of factors that can contribute to loss of oral tolerance, meaning a person could avoid food, and that food that's inflammatory, getting that out of their system, they feel way better. But what happens is that over time, they start reacting to the new food. And that new food that they're eating, say they're eating like broccoli, or they're eating steak, or they're eating clean, like, farm-raised chicken, and they're eating like the cleanest, the best food of all time, right? But what happens is it goes into the stomach and it doesn't get digested completely, or they have other issues going on in their small intestine that are creating an inflammatory process that isn't allowing them to heal just by removing food alone. They start reacting to the new food. And as they react to the new food, they start getting symptoms just like they had when they were eating all this grain and other stuff that they now remove from their diet. And so now they try to go back to what they're eating before, and they have a worse reaction to what they're eating before because the underlying loss of oral tolerance was never actually corrected. So how do we correct oral tolerance, or how do we reestablish oral tolerance? You see a lot of people now that are talking about AIP like it's the best thing ever, and it's really cool because it's anti-inflammatory, but then you also see this other opinion of many practitioners where they're saying, well, hey, listen, don't necessarily go jump on an autoimmune paleo diet without knowing a little bit more about what's going on with your system, because you can end up with an exacerbation of your chief complaint, whether it's fatigue, chronic pain, insomnia, allergy symptoms, chronic digestive disturbance. Could get better for a while, then get worse, and then you end up worse where you started because the oral tolerance issue has now progressed. So the key to understanding oral tolerance is 5 or 6 factors, which I will make serial videos the next couple of weeks, or the next few days, I should say, that kind of address 1 or 2 variables. And so that's the overall story of oral tolerance and how a person can remove foods on any restricted diet, whether it's keto, whether it's autoimmune paleo, whether it's vegetarian or veganism. For a period of time, they may actually notice some really awesome changes, and their inflammation comes down and their energy level goes up, their pain or allergy symptoms or digestive issues go away. But so many people, after weeks, months, or years on that, suddenly find themselves back where they started or worse, because the underlying tolerance to food or a digestive issue or immune issue that was causing them to lose tolerance to food to begin with was never addressed. So hopefully that answers a few questions for everybody, and I will be posting videos that describe how do we actually address oral tolerance. Have a great day.